Hi everyone, it's me, Monte, and I'm joined by CardGamer today. This is it for your Squadcast this time. I know we're a little bit late this week. We got some stuff going on. Chase Sensational's visiting me in Canada. CardGamer's got job interviews. Everybody's got real life stuff going on, so we had to delay a little bit. But we did want to get you guys this episode out because it is the week before seasonals. And, I'm sure you guys are all wondering what we're thinking right now, where our thoughts are. Also, there was big stuff going on tonight. Tonight we had the Aegis League Playoff Finals, right? This is pretty much the last major tournament before the seasonals. So if you're looking at what you want, what the top players are playing, what the hyper competitive people are looking at, what they think is good right now, this was a good tournament to watch. And also it was really exciting and it had quite a few interesting games tonight. We're just about to start talking about it a little bit. How did you feel about this as a card gamer?
So, I think that there was a very wide range of plays tonight. I think there were some games people played very well, and I think there were some games where there were quite some questionable plays, if we're being honest. I have a lot of respect for all of the players, and I would think that they would not be upset at me saying this because they would recognize it as well. But overall, I think it was a pretty fun series to watch. I think there's a lot of interesting deck choices, and I'm really interested to see how much some of these decks that popped up at Aegis will affect the meta moving forward. One big deck that popped up tonight that both players had was Akshan Nar. Two players actually ran Akshan Nar Fizz Ribbon lineups, correct? Infini and Milk were both on that core.
Infini was on one of them. Yeah. I think they were both on Nar. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which was also the lineup from this past weekend at the GG Tour that got second place.
Mm-hmm.
So this is actually this core is like a very promising core, and I'm really interested to see where it goes. Also, if you look at ladder trends or like top climbers over the past few days, or just like recent stats, Akshan Nar, Akshan Renekton, the papercraft, Shurima papercraft, has insane numbers right now on ladders. Granted, it's a small sample size, it's very elite players playing it, but it's definitely a deck that's popping up again and is very interesting.
Yeah, I know. You and I have been talking about it a fair bit in Discord servers and whatnot. It's definitely on my radar. I purposely kept it out of my lineup article this week because I knew Milk was bringing it, and I was asked not to leak the lineup prior to what do you call it, so I left it out. But this lineup definitely is something that I'm looking at as well. I think the double papercraft core is incredibly powerful. It does good things into Nami. It's supposed to do it's not great into Aphelios PNZ, but if you have to leave it up, you're not floundering completely, right? Like you have a chance there.
Oh yeah. So I think the Aphelios PNZ matchup ends up hinging a lot on just which champion do you get to which unit do you get to combo on and how easily can they interact with it, right? Things like Ruin Runner is going to be really hard for them to interact with compared to a Nar that doesn't have the spell shield, because then you're forced in a position where if you have to put the papercraft on defense, you're at the risk of getting smorked, or if they have their one of Vi, and then if you put it on offense, you're at the risk of getting Gravitoned from an Aphelios. So the Aphelios deck can create interesting forks, but overall I would say they're pretty skill-based matchups if both players have reasonable hands. Definitely an exciting matchup to watch play out. I'm a bit upset we didn't get to see it tonight.
Yeah, it's a little bit too bad because that's one that I was definitely hoping to get my eye on. That way I could maybe be a little bit more have a better understanding of how it plays out, of course, and be a little bit more comfortable in recommending these papercraft Nar deck. Papercraft Riven, Fizz Riven, we've obviously seen around for a while at this point. We kind of know what that deck does. We all have a very solid understanding of, hey, when it draws its champions in this order, when it does its thing, when it's able to do this, it's fine. But it, of course, does brick sometimes, and that's a little bit of a flaw. Whereas I feel like this Akshan Nar one, or the Renekton Akshan list, whatever you want to play, is a little bit less bricky. It has a little bit of a better mid-rangey game plan. It's not fantastic, and you can definitely still encounter that wrong part of your deck problem, but it's less drastic than the Fizz Riven lineups in my experience.
Oh yeah, I mean most definitely, and it just comes a lot with like the champion and the region identity you're pairing it with. Noxus is like a very linear and a very aggressive region, and like Fizz Riven very much plays out like a very linear like aggro combo style deck, where Paper Runner, Papercraft, Shurima, Akshanar, whatever you want to call it, deck of many names, Paper Nario, whatever. This deck, right, we're in Shurima and we're playing Akshan, which are two very, by nature, like mid-rangey regions that are pretty okay at playing for value. Like, Akshan's not bad at giving value, and like Shurima's pretty good at not necessarily getting value in hand, but getting value on board. And, you know, just this stuff really allows you to play this more mid-rangey game plan with an extremely explosive, like, over-the-top combo finish, as opposed to your Fizz-Riven Papercraft, which is very much just, like, all-in, kill you, or if we don't have that hand, we kind of just have to go wide and see how much chip we can get, and then maybe we can, like, beef something up and sneak something in.
Yeah. Other decks that's it for, like, new decks, though. There hasn't been too much else that's popped up this past week. Hey, there's Phansora.
I heard you talking about Fizz Riven and Paper Nario. I had to jump in.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Of course. So, what would be your take on the deck? We were kind of talking about it a little bit. We were saying they both seem very promising, and obviously they both are trying to do a similar thing, but because they go about doing it in a little bit different way. Shurima is like a very mid-rangey region by nature, and like Noxus, it's very aggressive. So one deck is more of it's like a mid-rangey deck with a very like explosive combo over the top is how they're going for lethals, whereas one is like very much just aggro combo, and because of that, they feel a bit different when they miss, especially.
Yeah,
and how they play out when they miss.
Right now, I feel like the Shroom one's slightly better. It's a bit more consistent, and it's safe. So, like, so first of all, with like, I'm going to talk about Fizz Riven first. So Fizz Riven doesn't have a board. It has, Riven is the only good blocker, and everything else is an X1. So you get put on a clock much faster by, like, any other deck right now. So you need to combo up as quickly as possible. So the quick combo is, you're on evens, you play Fizz on 4, you play Papercraft on 5, and then you swing in on 6. It's really hard to do it other ways just because of how tightly constrained your mana is when you play Papercraft. Like, when you play Papercraft, you're going to lose whatever next attack turn that they have, essentially. So the problem with that deck is you just have to have a critical mass of spells, whereas with Shurima, first of all, you're playing, like, 3/3s, you're playing Merciless, you can deal with other people's backline engines. And you can also just play Ruined Runner, Papercraft, win the game. With, like, you could have re-emergence backup, you could have, like, Shapestone. You don't need it. You can just win the game with those 2 cards. And that makes it a whole lot safer, I think.
Yeah, I think access to Rite of Negation is kind of huge for that deck.
Yeah.
Because I've played not a lot of Nami, but I have played a lot of Nami, but I've been playing primarily Nami this season, right? And every time I encounter that matchup for the Nami time, which hasn't been too frequently, but I've run into Infinity a couple times on ladder, and it has always come down to a deny check. If he has the deny, I'm dead. If he doesn't have the deny, I'm perfectly fine, and I'm killing him on my next
And we're
swing.
running 3 denies, so we usually have it.
Yeah.
Not when you're against me, apparently.
Well,
I'm lucky. What can I say?
One thing I will say, though, is even though, like, we have the Spell Shield Ruin Runner and we have the Deny in the Shurima version, I do think, like, if you are playing versus, like, a control-style deck, I would still rather be playing Fizz Riven, because I think Fizz is just too oppressive there. I think Fizz is just too good, and versus those decks, you're kind of allowed to just say, like, okay, I'm just going to make sure I see a card every turn, and I'm not going to do anything, and you have to play into me. And if you play into me, I can probably string together something and threaten you and start making you play things inoptimally, or I draw Fizz, and I have, like, a full hand of spells, and you can't do anything.
I'd say, like, so, like, if you're playing something like a TF Annie, I would agree with that, because, like, TF Annie can't really deal with Fizz at all. They can possibly push through Spell Shield and Ratification. Playing FTR, I think it's the other way. Playing FTR, I can set up to wipe their board with AoEs when they're trying to set up with Fizz, and my removal's vengeance, or like
Yeah.
freeze, but you'd have to have like double freeze.
Yeah, and they play Buried in Ruin. So against FTR, I would agree with you. So this is where I think it depends on like how valuable the deny actually is in the matchup. Because if you're hitting things with your deny other than kill spell, then I think, or vengeance in this case, right? Then I think, yes, papercraft is better. So against like Field of Rush, I would agree. But say like against a control deck like Darkness, I don't know if I would agree that. I think I would rather be playing a Fizz deck.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think against Darkness specifically, Fizz is like the ultimate. That's the matchup breaker when it comes
When
to
is
Darkness.
the last time you saw Darkness?
You'd be surprised. I actually saw it online.
I haven't
pretty
seen it.
recently.
I did see
and
it.
I played it. I played against it in Aegis a couple times. You know, more recent than you'd think. But yeah, there isn't a lot of Darkness. There isn't a lot of control really.
I would agree
no.
that like TF Annie is the one where you want to be playing Fizz.
Yeah, the make your rain shit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although even that's like it's not an easy matchup for Fizz. Like the turn
No.
you develop it, if they're a good player, they're saving their TF for when you go off with Fizz.
Yeah.
Because if they drop
Yeah.
TF, you have free reign to do whatever you want.
Mhm.
If they don't, they're gonna red card you after you play Fizz. They're gonna gold card you if you play papercraft. It's just not good.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, TF does very, very good things against that deck. Speaking of TF Annie, how do we feel about that deck? I know last week maybe 2 weeks ago now, we were talking about it. It was kind of on the come up, and people were pretty high on it. I could care less about the deck. It's not on my radar at all at this point.
I'm
I don't
high
think
on
it's
it,
very good.
or I was high on it just because I really like Ravenbloom as a card. The more I play it, it's like all kind of iffy, and I've realized that like just in general, there's a lot of decks that I feel kind of like so about. That they all seem fine. They don't seem great,
Yes.
but they all seem fine. And TFN is one
Why
of
am
them.
I playing this? Is the question I continually ask
Yes.
myself.
Flock deck in 2022. Am I right, my fellow
Yep.
gamers?
This is the best Flock's been.
Yeah.
There's some
this
other good
year,
stuff you
but
could be
like
doing.
playing Flock in 2022. Am I right, guys?
Yeah. It's funny because I used to hate Flock. Like, I really, really, really thought Flock needed a nerf. It just did too much.
Yeah.
Now,
Have you played the deck enough?
I mean, he used to play Ashnox. That's why, and Reputation. It's like Flock. That we need to get rid of that.
Ash Nox is making a comeback. I've seen it so
no,
much.
it's not. It's not.
I've
It's
seen
not
it
a
a
good
lot.
deck.
I've
It's
seen it a
so
lot.
bad.
People are
I've only
coping.
seen Sudrakhan putting up numbers with it, and that's Sudrakhan.
It's still good because I've been
Okay.
playing nothing but papercraft decks, so they just freeze me and I
They
cry.
just freeze you. Yeah, okay. It's good
Well, I
against
mean, I guess-
papercraft decks.
Yeah, I guess if the meta shifts towards papercraft, there's our answer, right?
Yeah.
Hey, can we play Freeze Teemo again?
I've seen that a few times too.
No.
Yo,
Yeah.
we freeze the papercraft. We shroom the TF decks. It's all coming together.
I
It's
was
all coming together.
speaking of Teemo, I was looking at the stats for and like deck lists for Teemo Caitlyn, just like standard shrooms. First of all, that deck's like abysmal right now. It's like 42. Also, people are running like really whack lists. Like they're like cutting Karina to run Song Spinner.
Yeah.
Well, people
that's...
are playing Karina right now because it's bugged. Did you know about that?
No. Oh, this is the crashes
Yeah.
the game thing or something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Apparently, it's inconsistent though.
Yes.
It doesn't always happen.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah.
Bizarre. But yeah, I probably wouldn't be playing Karina right now because I don't want to bug people's shit out. That's not.
Yeah,
not-
yeah, that's
that's
why I'm
not
not playing
well-earned
Karina right
LP.
now.
Yeah.
That's
That's
why.
the only reason.
Yeah,
No, there's got to
exactly.
be some way to make that puff cap deck like not complete dog shit, right? Like Max played it to Masters last
No,
season on his Smurf.
Here's what
It's-
you do.
You
It's
can play
Karina
it
triggers it
against
for both
Masters.
decks, but you get your boons. So like it's boons for you, trash for the
Ooh.
opponent. So you run it with like Bard.
Okay.
It sounds
When
awful,
you're playing
but like
mono PZ, like Bard
Yeah.
traps.
Huh.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah, that deck's just not happening, eh?
I don't even know what you have to do to make traps good. Like Foundry was I really liked Foundry. Like old Hexcore Foundry. For people who don't know, essentially it was Teemo, Ezreal, Puffcat Peddler, Iceveil Archer because it procs for Ezreal and it's a good stall card, and then like a bunch of freeze, combat tricks, and like Mystic Shot, and Hexcore Foundry. So both players draw a card, and you filled up their decks with shrooms, you never let them deal damage to you that mattered because you froze them, and then you eventually just like drew them to death with shrooms, or you like pretty much burst speed Ezreal killed them with freeze. And because you're playing such low value cards that don't affect the board state, you know, Foundry is a very good card to keep giving you those freezes to keep stalling out, as well as, you know, doing the Teemo thing. But that deck won on like turn like 15, 16 a lot. Like that deck went late a lot.
Yeah, it did.
Turn 10 is too slow right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, turn 10 does not exist. Remember that? Remember the Karma buff, right? We had to nerf Ezreal because of his Karma, but like, turn 10, am I right, gamers? In 2022?
Imagine getting to turn 10.
Your Yang's list of Karma. It's
Oh,
fun.
God.
It's not good.
I haven't seen it. What is it?
It's just like Ezreal Karma. It's like standard Ezreal Karma.
Just Ezreal Karma.
You just like stall out and like hope you can stall out long enough, and then they winding light you, and you're like, oh, I only can stun one thing. That's cool.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's just Yang, so he skill diffed a bunch of people for a little while and thought it was good.
I ran into
realizing
him
that it
so
wasn't.
much on ladder.
Yeah, he's been grinding. He's been playing a ton. He's been trying to break the
grinding.
600 LP barrier, but he's 3 times in the past 10 days, or maybe 10 times in the past 3 days, he's gone up and down from 500 to 400.
Oh, I did worse. I went up to 400 and then dropped to 0.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Phansora, how?
I was playing too much, I think.
Painful.
Yeah,
I'm
I've
Yeah,
wanted
so-
to play the
some-
past couple days. I just haven't been able to. I'm so tired.
I just laddering is miserable. I want to get to 7-2 cutoff. It's just
Yeah, no, I feel you. I'm right
Just
outside. I'm
so
at like
ending.
420 right now. But, you know, Phansora, I have some Aegis teammates who would say you don't play enough. My teammate Bitter,
Christ.
you know about the Bitter arc this season, right, Monte? One of my Aegis teammates, Bitter, Zip Code Man, also known as, went from, he got rank 1, he climbed like a couple hundred LP to go to 600 to get rank 1 earlier this season. Yeah. In the span of 24 hours, got rank 1, dropped back down to 0, and then went back up to 300.
jeez.
Bitter.
It's just frustrating because like I know I have like a consistently 50, like I'm above 50%. I'm pretty sure on most of the decks I'm playing. It's just like it's not. I need to get like 60 something.
You need to carry 66 to actually climb in Masters.
It's
is what you
like-
need to carry at a minimum, and
Yeah.
that's hard for one. 2, you're gonna hit bad matchups some of the time. Like it's just not possible a lot of the
No,
time.
it's always a bad matchup. It's just
Have you
You
considered
literally
playing a
have
deck
to be
without
skilled
bad
in it.
matchups?
You got to be skill diffing bad matchups on the regular to climb in Masters.
it's-
Well, yeah, I mean, well, like it's something we've talked about before, but it's a lot about like figuring out pocket metas and then finding decks that are like very strong and like very flat. So like for example, Aphelios PNZ has been really good, and I use that almost exclusively to get to like the LP I'm at now, and I haven't been playing as much the past couple of days, and that's partially because there's been like a resurgence of like Thralls and like Freljord decks on ladder, which is like a bad matchup for me. So I'm kind of just like chilling out, waiting for the meta to like start cycling through again, and then I'm probably gonna, you know, get back in there and start trying to climb again, because the meta does like ebb and it flows, and it happens a lot on ladder, and it also happens for tournaments, right? Like we can, and I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit about it right now, like some decks we're considering for seasonals and like what we think the top decks are, but you know, we're going to do another Squadcast next week probably, and there's a decent chance half of those decks aren't there because things just cycle through.
we're gonna do a Squadcast next week. I'm still not gonna know what I'm bringing for seasonals.
Yeah, I'm probably
Yeah.
not either.
I honestly, I think I'm pretty locked on a Nami Aphelios core, and then I think I want Scouts to be my third, but honestly, I don't know. There's a massive problem with that core. It opens you up to the same weaknesses. So
Well, you're banning them. It's fine.
yeah, I'm banning them. It's true. I don't
Oh wait,
know.
which Nami are you doing?
SI. I'm not that crazy.
You converted?
I'm putting up numbers with the Bandle version. It's not like it's a bad deck. It's just I think the SI version is better, right? You'd be hard pressed to say that it's not. I
To
think.
give up SI Telstones.
Yeah.
SI
I mean, you get
Telstones.
Rex, you get Treasure Trash, but
Those are funny cards. I don't know if they're good
Yeah.
cards in Nami.
honestly, the biggest thing with that Bandle Nami deck, because you guys know I played that a fuck ton at this point, right? I always said I want burn in this deck. I want a little bit of burn to close out. And I wasn't putting double up in the deck. I wasn't going to do it. Double up gets countered so easily.
Just like
and
double
like
up your own unit.
That doesn't work.
You can't, though.
Oh, it's enemies only, right?
Yeah.
Never mind.
Dude, Pink City would have actually been the best deck in the game. Like,
but yeah,
that would not
Rex,
have been okay.
I put one Rex in the deck when I jammed it on ladder. I went from 0 to 250 with it exclusively. Put a Rex in it. Was chilling. And then I climbed with SI Nami from that point. And a little bit of PNZ Targon. And I'm sitting at like 350-ish right now. But I gotta be in the mood to climb ladder. And like, I gotta be rested. And I haven't been rested this week. If I tried to play right now, I would probably just int all my LP. And I don't want to do that because I worked hard to get it. And I know I want 7-2 seeding. And I know I'm capable of 7-2 seeding.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna make the time, get some rest, and
What's
actually go
7-2
for
seeding
it.
gonna be? It's like 600?
It's going to be at least 600.
600
my
probably,
God.
yeah.
So,
I would go to 660
Actually,
myself.
The cutoff, like... The like cutoff area is like a much bigger drop than like the top 10,
Yeah.
which is crazy. It like drops from like 650 to like 550 around this.
Mhm.
Sorry, like 450 min.
Yeah, that's like where around I'm like right before the drop. Like I'm like a few LP before like the big cutoff. On the bottom side though, unfortunately. But I think that's a really good point you brought up, Monte. Especially when you're like very much trying to seriously climb. Only playing when you're in the right mindset and you have like the time to commit to it. Really sit down and play well. I think ladder is a great tool for just being able to spam and get reps, but at the expense of like repping out and just playing as many games as possible, you're probably going to make some misplays and not learn as much as if you're very focused. And for some players, you will be in a stage where it's more beneficial to just play a lot of games, but it's also important to recognize if you're trying to get a goal to only play when you're in that mindset. And if you are a player where you feel like you are kind of in between, where you do want to push for 7-2, but you still need to play and get more reps and be playing a good bit, I honestly don't hate the idea of making an alt account for reasons like that. I think it's like pretty smart actually, especially if you want to try and be competitive and push for 7-2, but you still feel the need to like try things and experiment and be playing more games, then you can really play with 100% focus. But what do you guys think about that?
That's something I've been doing a little bit more this season as well. I've been putting time into my alt account. I've been trying to play on it at least once or twice a week just so I can get a little bit more a few more cards. But yeah, I definitely think that one, being in the right headspace is critical for ladder play. Like you said, if you're not in the right headspace, you're just not going to perform. And two, there can be time. You can be both a player that wants to rep out completely and like just jam infinite ladder games. I'll have nights where I'll sit here from 6 p.m. till 6 a.m. and I'll just play ladder for 12 hours straight. And I enjoy it, and like I'm just having a good time, and my quality of play will start to drop at some point, but it's not dropping so much that I'm like actually losing enough percentage points that I think I should go to bed.
It's not negative EV, but it's not as positive as when you started.
Yeah, exactly. But then there's other times where I'm like, okay, I really want to focus on like one specific thing, like learning how this deck pilots because I'm trying to pick it up. I'm not jamming 60 games in a night with a brand new deck. It's not happening. That's not a good idea. I need to play 5 games at a time. I'm going to play a 5-game session of Aphelios PNZ, for example. Nami SI. I'm really trying to learn the nuances of the deck, trying to figure out how it operates in every individual matchup that I encounter. So I'm paying a lot more attention and giving a lot more focus to what I'm doing in those 5 games. The very next day, I could go back to jamming 60 games a night. You don't have to be one or the other. You can be both, and it can come and go with your mood, if nothing else. It just matters that you, when you do have a goal like reaching the 7-2 seeding, that you don't let those, I feel like jamming a bunch of game nights, become a landslide of just negative LP gain. when you have this goal, you have to understand that, hey, after three losses in a row, maybe I should just cut it off for a night. And if you want to come back to it in an hour and try again, like if you're still feeling like that, go for it. But definitely be firm with yourself and like step away after a while. Don't let you don't want to go from 350 to 0 in a night.
I want to go from 600 to 0.
Feels bad.
Yeah. Along those lines, some other good advice I've heard from two players that I respect a lot, and I know you're friends with as well, Monte. Very strong players, constantly can hit top of ladder. One of them is Scathis. One thing Scathis always does is he says if I ever lose 2 games in a row, I just get off. I go do something else and I let myself reset. Because it's really easy to tilt, especially in ladder, especially when, it's a game that you can lose in very frustrating ways. You can not draw anything. Your opponent can draw everything. You can lose to RNG, So it's good to recognize when to take a break. And then the other one I like a lot is from Eniamore.
Mm-hmm.
Multi-time rank 1 player. Very good player. And what he tends to do when he really tries to climb and go for rank 1 pushes is he paces himself and he makes sure he plays at the same time pretty much every day, kind of start to get into a routine, and he kind of understands the pocket meta that he's playing in that we were talking about before. He jams one deck, and if the pocket meta is ever not good for him or his deck, he'll just say, okay, this is fine, and he'll just get off and come back later when it's a better pocket meta. And I think being disciplined and having routines or stuff like this really helps you climb and reach these goals of 7-2 or Masters or qualifying for seasonals or whatever your specific goal would be.
Humans by nature are creatures of habit. Routine is very, very good for us, and it's good for our mental, and it's good for just the way we operate. So yeah, I meant to bring up Ennie's exact thing. He sits down and he plays from X hour to Y hour every single night because he knows that at that time that's the pocket meta that favors his deck because he's scoped it out earlier in the season. He knows what it is, and like you said, if it happens one night that he hits a bad meta, he'll just stop. And as for Scathis' 2-game rule, yeah, my personal rule is 3. I always get off after 3. If it's 3 games, I'm done. That's it. I'll come back to it later. But everybody can be different like that. But I agree, it shouldn't be too many games. After 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 is pushing it for sure. If you ever lose that many in a row, I would just cut it. Yo, what's up, Prodigy? Welcome.
Hey, sorry about that, guys. I was scrimming Jason and
no worries.
Kind of lost track of time.
All good, homie.
What have you been practicing?
A lot of Demacia. Working on a triple Demacia lineup right now.
Okay.
Oh, you found a third deck? I know you were on Scouts and Bard Poppy.
Yeah, I'm on Jayce Lux right now.
Okay.
But a very fast version with
Baboon package.
Baboons, Chompers, Inspiring Light, Free Rally.
Oh, okay. The one that Dave posted basically.
I slightly
tweaked
modified
it a little bit from that.
I changed 6 or 7 cards, so
okay.
Kind of a big tweak, but not. It's still the same idea.
Yeah.
But it feels decent. Still needs a lot of work. Figuring out the right level of interaction, the right level of threats. So I think I have good ideas. It's just I need a lot of time to refine them. I don't know. I do a lot of refining for seasonals.
I think Jayce Lux is a pretty interesting deck. I get the feeling that it lines up very similarly with Scouts, and it should work very nicely in a lineup together. But I haven't had the time to test it myself just yet. So
yeah,
very curious to hear how your testing goes.
The things that I'm kind of going after is Nami, Ari, and Thralls. Mm-hmm. And then banning Aphelios is kind of the strategy that I'm going for. And then also just being good into a lot of random stuff like Field of Rush or yeah. But that's the idea. We'll see if I can get the decks to do that. Because right now the decks are one deck's good into Ari and then one deck's kind of so-so and then one deck's good into this Thralls and then one deck's kind of so-so. So it's trying to get them on the same page.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Lux Jayce is cool and all, but I won't ever consider bringing that deck to a tournament until it can beat a tier 1 deck. Like, it's a very solid deck and it's very good at what it does, but it often is just very good at beating the decks that are like weaker than it, or decks that tend to stumble, and it often has a lot of trouble dealing with like the strongest decks in the format.
It's just too fair of a deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That is, I think, the problem. It does beat Nami. I feel decent about that.
I have a really hard time believing that, to be honest.
So you go really fast because you have all the forge workers and stuff, and then you cheat mana. You cheat a lot of mana, and then like you play Inspiring Light, and your stuff gets really big. And then the idea is you stick a Jayce or a Lux, and your spell doubling gets kind of out of control. Because you can like remove their threats pretty efficiently while like still pressuring them. I wouldn't say it's like very favored.
Okay.
But I would
might
say
just
like
be biased because I'm like used to playing the Fizz Vandal version into that matchup, and like I've had a lot of success in that one. But the Fizz Vandal version's like more aggressive and less control-y.
I think yeah. The game definitely goes late. Like it's not like you're running them out the door on 5 or 6. Like the matchup definitely goes for like 7 or 8, or even 9 sometimes. But between Sharp Sight, Shock Blast, whatever you hit off Reggie, like you have game. I definitely swapped a lot of things out though because I'm on like the full Sculptor package and stuff like that. And like I'm on Concerted Strikes to deal with Nami. So like I can instantly remove their threats. So I'm still messing around with the exact numbers, but Lux Laser is really good because it lines up perfectly with all their big threats. So you just try to like get Lux down around the same time they're trying to do their thing, and then you kind of just trade your 6-cost spell for.
Yeah, and I mean that makes a good bit of sense to me. I played a bit of Lux Jayce versus Nami PZ back when like that was popping at the end of Arcana meta, and I felt that was a bit favored for Nami, but it was only favored because you often were able to do this thing against them where if they wanted to play Lux and then do the 6-cost spell to remove a thing, or they like did Challenger, like they have Challenger Jayce, which is annoying at Challengers, but like it isn't that bad. There's things like Double Mystic that can answer it like Cold Card. You could create these opportunities where if they decided to spend a mana and try and answer you, you were so explosive that you could just punish really hard and start to convert wins and like get an insane amount of tempo off of that, push insane amount of damage and just go for like burn reach. But SI Nami doesn't have that. Like they end up just like making a bunch of like thirdly dudes and shitters end up blocking out and just like buffing them up, which is like cool. But if we're removing the Nami fast enough, they're not getting that big. And then if we're like 4 Demacia rallying on 6 wide boards, then like it starts to become a real issue, right?
Yeah, if they're on Harrowing, it's definitely a harder matchup. But if they're not on Harrowing, I think you're like, because you can 4 Demacia rally on 5. On
Do you
turn
mean
5.
Harrowing or Ruination? Because almost every race is on Harrowing.
If they're on Ruination, it's harder.
Okay.
If they're on Harrowing, it's fine. If they're on Ruination, it's hard. And you can like 4 Demacia rally on 5 because of Forge Worker. Like it's not uncommon to have like 2 Forge Workers and then you're like 5 or 6 wide on 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Because you don't need to like wait for turn 7 to do that. And I think if people forget, like they're like, oh, you just play 4 Demacia, that's fine. And then you like get the 1 refill of spell mana. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh shoot.
Would you ever play Forge of Tomorrow to like enable that as well? Because like
I would definitely mess around with it.
Which is like kind of
I would definitely mess around with it.
And then
Yeah. I think if you're gonna play Forge, I think you want to be playing a few more 6-cost spells than I'm running. Because I'm only running back-to-back and like 1 Shock Blast.
Somebody
you're
on
not
Twitter
maining 4 Demacias. You might want to main like 1 or 2 if you're on that. Because like then you're just playing really hard into this like 4 Demacia plus rally on like 5-6 plan, right?
So you have Inspiring Light, which is kind of a pseudo.
Yeah,
maybe
it's better to play
well.
for Inspiring Light now. I'm just thinking back to when I was messing around with like the Yai Jayce Lux or whatever you want to call it when like Dave Bo like made the concepts first like a season ago.
Yeah.
Somebody on Twitter actually suggested Production Surge because that'll combo nicely with Inspiring Light, and I thought that was an interesting suggestion and that might actually be worth looking at.
Yeah, you're gonna
Yeah.
play Production Surge, and then you're gonna get like a 7-1, and you're gonna wanna end yours.
And then they're gonna Vile Feast it, and then they're gonna and you're
No,
gonna
it has
lose.
a barrier. It's fine. They can't Vile Feast it. It has a barrier.
When my opponent plays it, it goes 6 wide. When I play it, it goes 1 wide. I don't understand why it always happens. It's every
I will say-
time.
If you have a Sculptor down, it's not so bad because then all your stuff has 2 HP and it's not getting like
True.
Vile Feasted. But if you don't have a Sculptor, but I definitely would mess around with it before I knocked it because like
Yeah.
you I think the other thing though is like your board does get full really fast. So
Wait, real
Yeah.
quick, how are you getting your mana refill for Forge Monster Rally without Forge of Tomorrow?
Forge
Chief.
Chiefs.
yeah,
The
one
1
drop.
mana 2
And that's just enough when they attack into? Or...
So if you Fortimacia on like 6, right, and you have 1 Forge Chief. then
on
you
your
have 3
attack
mana
token.
left over.
On your attack
Yeah.
On your attack token.
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So you can do it on 5 with 2 Forge Workers. You can
I
do it on 6 with 1. But you definitely can like also play it slow and like the thing that remember in the matchup is like if you want to leave their shitters on the board until like you can actually represent a threat because like you want those things to take buffs.
Yeah.
So you want like all their non-elusives to take the buffs.
Yeah.
And then
So
you
that
eventually
makes
like
a lot.
stick Jayce or you stick Lux. And then you do a shock blast into a laser into something else, right? And then you start to shoot their guys down and then you go in for the attack.
Wait,
and
are
then
you
die.
pretty much just like trying to set up an OTK turn in the matchup?
Yeah, so you play for either the rush them down aggro or the OTK kind of. So you kind of like you try to do the aggressive thing first, and if that doesn't work, then you quickly pivot to like I'm gonna set up a big OTK.
Yeah, like play all your shitters. You can buff them up, but not to the point where they trade with like my Fortimacia or A-Gate rally turn, and then you like make them trade down, and then you rally, and then it's like okay, die or play Harrowing, and then you can't win the game anymore, and yeah.
Between your challengers and your shock blasts and stuff, you try to just remove their threats on site. Is the idea, and you just hope they don't draw like two Nami, 2 Shelly. You know, like if they have 2 threats, it's pretty answerable. 3 threats is where like it starts to get a little bit tricky, and then if they draw 4, you're kind of in a world of pain. But you kind of just dare them to have enough threats. But I don't know. It's something I'm messing around with. Currently needs a lot of like work to get it where I want it to be. But it's a good place to start. Same with Scouts. Scouts is, I think it's kind of fixed, but Scouts just break sometimes, and I don't know why.
Are you still on Inspiring Light in
Jesus.
Scouts?
I am right now. Yeah, I don't know.
Just
I'm
think
running more Mirai Wardens, but
Are you on Zap too? Or did you cut to that?
yeah, I'm on Zap.
It's just funny hearing you say, oh, Scouts just bricks sometimes. And I was talking to you earlier about how your other deck has more 4 drops than 1, 2, and 3 drops combined.
Yeah. Yep. But you just full mulligan for those. Like Scouts, when it bricks, it like just doesn't draw Misfortune.
Well, you can get
I
like
think Misfortune's a bit overrated in the
you can
deck.
get through with
I
like
agree.
Sculptor plus Fortimacia.
Yeah, I mean,
Kind of.
we saw an Aegis game today where one player had MF Quinn Rally, and the other player went wide and played a Fortimacia. Guess
Yeah,
which
that's
player
the-
won?
The mirror is very different.
Mhm.
But like in the matchups like you're going for, like if you're trying to beat Nami, Ari,
It's
or
true.
Thralls, like
MF
especially
is
against Thralls,
important.
Yeah,
if
you
you
need
don't
MF.
have Misfortune, good
Yeah.
luck like being favored in those matchups.
Yeah, when you have to play as a combo deck, you need MF. When you can
Right.
play as a Demacia deck, either game plan is
You're
good.
fine. Yep, that's accurate. So, we'll see. I just want to bring consistent stuff to open rounds. So I'm even adjusting my Demacia list to be a little bit more consistent. I'm going back to Penitent Squire because Thralls is back, and having some more 1-drops is good. Exactly,
Thralls
Phansora's
is
point.
Pretty good right now. Like,
Yeah.
ironically, the
I'm
nerf
surprised.
put it into a better meta position.
Yeah.
Just people
Yeah.
aren't trying to
And
hard
that-
counter anymore.
So,
Yeah,
Drac
well, the
Lord
deck-
is good.
Draklorn
Yeah.
is good. Yeah, it's good enough.
It's good
the
enough.
deck is definitely weaker, Like, you'd be hard pressed to say that the deck is as strong as it
It's
was
got a
before.
higher win rate.
It's definitely weaker.
It's just
got a higher win rate.
It's just way
That's
better
because
positioned.
better players are on it. That's why.
And it's way better positioned.
It's
Like,
really
yeah.
everyone's playing. No, it has a super high play rate too.
No, the play rate was
The
low.
play rate only skyrocketed in the past 2
It's
days.
spiked
The meta's
right
gonna
now.
the meta's
Okay.
gonna cycle to be hostile towards it in the next couple of days.
Yeah.
But
Like,
everyone
right now
was
it's spiking.
playing. Yeah, right now and yesterday, it's like fucking Thralls stonks or like fucking that shit's like GameStop, like.
Right.
Oh.
Icano made that joke. Come on, he's stealing them too. The Redditor did it first. Now you're
Yeah.
doing it.
Dude, like, what do you mean? Like, everyone makes GameStop memes. Like, that was like that was a whole arc. Like, the GameStop arc? Come on. It's like,
Now we're gonna have an arc of pilfering Icano.
yeah. Alright, how come one
steal all
person
his
can
jokes.
make a pop culture reference and it's automatically their reference? Alright, this is another topic.
He
but I'm just
tweeted
saying.
it. That's why. It's on Twitter. That's why.
Oh, he tweeted it.
There's,
Yeah,
there's,
okay.
there's proof. There's
Yeah.
It's
There's
immortalized
times.
now.
It's immortalized on Twitter. Anyways,
Sorry.
so
Did you guys actually talk about Thralls yet? Because I do think there's like something
We haven't
interesting
really.
there.
Not really.
No, we haven't, but we can talk about it now. I think Thralls is just really well positioned. I think Aphelios, PNZ, and Nami were like the big dogs going into this patch. Thralls is very good into both of those. RAPZ and Nami, and like also with like people thinking Thralls is gone, with Shurima dying off, especially like Disc and like other matchups that Ari Bard was really good into. That going away also helped Thralls, and even with the Ari Bard matchup, it's not great for Thralls, but like it did get better now that we're playing Draklorn. Draklorn is like pretty good into them.
Right.
Yeah.
Now that we're playing Avalanche again,
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the other thing. Avalanche coming back into the list helps out with the Ari Bard matchup.
Do you
and
think?
somebody else.
I've heard Nami is favored into Thralls. But
I think it is.
Okay.
Maybe not favored, but it is like maybe 52, 53. Like that's probably the percentage points I would put it at.
Yeah.
So it's like close. If you know how
Right,
to
it's
play the
even.
matchup, it's perfectly fine. The thing is that the ladder stats don't represent it because one, Nami
Right.
pilots don't know the matchup, and two, Nami pilots on the whole are subpar, with the exception of a few, I would say.
what makes
I'm
that a
not-
good
Right.
matchup? Is it the like elusive
Yeah.
beatdown, or like
Yeah,
occasionally
you
high
just
rolling
kill
with a
them.
crumble and you just like end their game plan
No.
and they just sit there, or
No, elusive. beat.
Crumble is bait as fuck.
Okay.
You are
I-
keeping you're keeping Tellstones,
So
but you're killing them with Mark of the
Okay.
Isles.
here's
You
my
need
issue
Vengeance
with
of
that
Thrall if you need
game.
to.
Yeah, here's my issue with that game plan. This Nami deck isn't that good at that game plan consistently.
Yeah.
Compared to how consistent Thralls is good at getting out Thralls and getting tough Nexus and drawing ways
So-
to stall.
The other thing that I find is very good in that matchup is having Answered Prayer on turn 3 for 4, so that way you can set yourself up for a Tentacle Slam to deal with either Lysandra or with the Draklorn.
That makes sense.
interesting.
That puts you up pretty ahead. Also, or having a Vengeance available for the Draklorn is something, but like that can get denied sometimes. I feel like the Tentacle Slam line is a little bit more reliable because they don't really see it coming. They don't expect it so much.
I feel like you're
the
probably
thing-
fine with the Vengeance just because they're most likely curving it on 5, so they can't deny you.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
And
but
then
if your
they
Vengeance
probably,
on
like, represent
5,
two
like it's
Thralls.
slowing your turn a lot. It's slowing your clock a lot as the Nami player as well.
You might be
Like-
fine depending on how your mana is. Like that might be the last like 1 or 2 spell mana that you need, and you drop Nami on 6 and go off, or like Shelly on
Yeah.
6.
It's
It's probably
certain-
fine.
It's certainly a playable matchup, but like the issue is, and with like a lot of these lines you guys are telling me are like lines you want to do, when are we killing them? When are our burbles cheap enough to kill them? Like this is the issue I have with the matchup, because like
Yeah.
sometimes you do get there and sometimes your hand lines up, but I've had hands where I like open like Nami double trouble burble like Eye of Naga Kaboros, and like I draw into like another like burble fish and like a fading memories, and like I still don't win because my hand never makes burbles less than 3 mana without like making
Yeah.
bad plays. And like
yeah.
sometimes
No,
this is like the deck is very good at stalling, so this is often fine, but like Thralls is very good at just applying like an unethical amount of pressure, which is
Yeah,
an
so-
issue.
So I have a very small sample size here. So I'm on a team with Mo, who's like one of the better better Thralls, one of the better TF Nami players.
Yeah.
And so him and Drizoth combined are 16-2 against Thralls, which is still a small sample size, but that's like they're putting up. And so like I think the thing with Nami, right, is we know it's a really hard deck, and so I think to the average player, I think Thralls beats Nami. But I think if you're like thinking about this, like okay, it's a tournament, and like once you get to the last 3 rounds of open rounds, and you get to like the top cut of seasonals, like you're not playing against the average players, and like so like I think you can make the argument that Thralls beats Nami, unless you're going up against like like an Ikato, like a Drizoth, but like those are the people that are going to be playing that deck in the knockout rounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So small sample size, obviously, but I'm only going like I haven't played the deck, but I'm just going off like what I've talked to people about.
Yeah, I have also talked to the same people and heard the same things from them. I'm checking my own stats to see if I've encountered that matchup, and I haven't.
I think I'm 1-1 in the matchup. I've had like the one hand where like I have the combo, shit doesn't get cheap enough, and then I've had the game where like they 2-thrall me on 5, I kill 1, like I like don't die to the second one, and then like I kill them before they make like a menacing enough board for them to kill me, right?
Yeah.
Like sometimes it works and like sometimes it doesn't, and I don't know. Like it could be a problem with me. Like maybe I'm just not as good as like I'm definitely not as good as like Drizoth, right? But like maybe there is that much of a difference. But even watching like some of the VODs Drizoth posted, it seems like there are just like issues this deck can run into that hold it back and can make it really awkward. And it can definitely be hard to judge a Nami deck because like you can have insane variance based on hands.
Right.
But the deck's certainly powerful, and I don't think the Thralls matchup is like that insane. Like favored for Thralls versus Nami, I'd probably put it closer to like 55 for Thralls. But like that's still a pretty good matchup into Nami, considering like how solid that deck is if played well.
I think I like about Thralls right now is I actually kind of like it in the meta because it's interactable now, right? Because we're not doing the promising doubling like all this stuff. Like it's a lot more honest. Of we're gonna play our Drakhorn and we're gonna hope that like flips our Thralls faster. And now if you're playing Demacia, you can Concerted Strike. If you're playing other regions, you can Vengeance. Like all of a sudden we have ways to interact with the Thralls, and I think that's like actually pretty healthy for the game.
I gotta agree with you on that one.
Speaking of Freljord, what do you guys think of FTR?
It's good for the beat a Felios lineup. Like if you want to be if you want to be targeting a Felios, you're playing 2 Freljord decks. But the issue with playing 2 Freljord decks is like once people are like, oh, Freljord's in the meta, they're gonna start playing things to beat the Freljord decks, and that's when things start to cycle through again, right?
Like well, I just have to hope I don't run into you, Prodigy. FTR has been beating some other stuff because like it's fine into Nami. It's fine to Nami. It's fine into like TF Annie. Like you might think on the surface that like
I think FTR is fine into Nami. I think that's like very losing for FTR.
No, it's fine versus Nami SI. I think you're on the good side of 50.
You have enough board clears.
Because
like you keep their board really thin and they can't ever get big on you, and then they buff up a Burrowfish, you Vengeance it, and then eventually they can't deal with your FTR super well.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree it's favored. You like ramp pretty aggressively early, right? And you just essentially...
So you have to run a ramp heavy version, basically, right?
But,
I feel like it comes down to a She Who Wanders most of the time.
She Who Wanders...
It's She Who doesn't matter that much.
But
it's good, but...
It doesn't super matter. And the problem is...
ever beat Harrowing, though?
Ruin or Buried?
You have Buried Nice, or, So
you run Buried Nice over Ruination?
Yeah.
I like the 1-1 split.
I'm on...
personally.
2. So, like, the current... It's like old FTR was, like, very pure control, no ramp, and then you just run FTR at the top. This one's, like, the hybrid version, where you run Faces, you're in Catalyst as usual, 1 Voices if you want. Some people are on the, like, other ramp 03. I think that's probably too much.
Wording Stones is a bad card.
Wording Stones is probably too much. And then in the top end you have your split of like FTR, Hit the Stairs, and She Who Wonders.
What happens in the matchup is you ramp up, like, if they play a TF, or, like, they try and go, like, really wide and they're representing a Shelly, you throw out an Avalanche or a Ravine to wipe it. If they ever play out a Nami without having other units down, you just insta-vengeance it. If they ever play an Burble without having a buffer down, you just insta-violet. And then, essentially what happens is you just don't do anything on their attack tokens until, like, they present something you have to deal with. If they ever swing, then you just get to fucking do whatever you want, and then you just go back to, like, managing their board and holding up mana. And eventually, they'll have to play into you. Ideally, you have a way to deal with it, either freeze, vengeance, board wipe, and then you just, like, end up transitioning into, like, an FTR, or just, like, level 2 Trundle, or, like, slamming a Trend, and just, like, trying to get there off of that, and just, like, pressuring them. And you just make them play into you. And this deck, like I've been saying this a lot, this deck is not explosive enough. When I play PZ Nami and Targon Nami, and my opponent says, I want to kill your Nami, I want to kill your important unit, I say, very cool, opponent, I want to kill you. And I usually do it. When I play this deck, it's a lot harder to do that.
Yeah.
Just how many Telstones you have, but yeah.
Yeah, there are hands that do it. For sure, but it's a lot.
That's why I like three coral creatures as well, because you get more chances at Telstones.
Monte, the reason why I think you think it's not favor is because, like, yes, if you ever get an action as the Nami player with Shelly or Nami on the board, like, if you ever have an action with any of your engines, you probably win because FTR doesn't have enough ways to kill, like, all 3 or 4 of your big elusive units. However, you have enough tools as the FTR player to simply stay ahead of them and just, like, shut it down before they start their game plan. With, like, Avalanche, Ravine, Hit That Stairs. Very nice. She Who Wonders is, it's not super important, but if you land She Who Wonders, you've probably already won. Mm-hmm. It's a little contentious because if they have stuff on the board and you drop She Who Wonders, you lose because they're going to buff everything with Telstones.
Yeah. One thing I'll also say is you can get away with letting them, like, get a little bit greedy and a little bit more down on board too, because of stuff like Ruin and Varied and how much of a punish it can be. And then if they ever decide to, like, go all in and try and kill you, and you don't have to spend all of your mana, or, like, sometimes you don't even have to spend any mana, they just put, like, 16 up, and you're like, alright, I'll take 16. Then, like, you transition into the FTR and you just kill them, right? Like, stuff like this happens. And it becomes really scary because, like, sometimes, like, the Nami player has to try and kill you in one turn, and that means they're, like, almost tapping out. It can create a lot of scary situations. But there's also times where it's, like, your opponent has 2 Shellys on the board, and they have 4 mana, and you have Ruination in hand, and it's like, well, if they have double Telstones, Fading Memories, I'm dead, but, like, can I play around that? Probably not.
I mean, there's 2 Shellys on the board, you should be Ruinationing anyway.
Like, if the board is, like, 2 Shellys, you're at, like, 12 HP, and you have a FTR in hand.
I see what you're saying.
Right?
Like, you can,
I was in a spot like that. Like, I was watching someone in a scrim in a spot like that last night, or the other night, and I was like, yeah, like, we lose to, like, double Telstone Fading. Do we play around that, or do we try and win next turn? It's like, it's a weird spot.
Wait, how do you lose a double Telstone Fading?
I don't remember.
Oh, you mean?
I don't know about that fading, but, like, that's a double buff with Shelly.
No, they had 3 mana, so it was like Telstone, 1 mana spell Fading. My bad.
Oh, you mean if you play Field of Rush, you lose to that?
Yeah. If we play Field of Rush,
I'm just jamming Ruination at that point.
Yeah,
but that...
you can, like, you don't need to, like, worry about developing FTR on your, like, defensive turn so you can play the pillar to give your Trundle Overwhelm. You can just jam it on your attack turn, and, like, they have to block you anyway.
Yeah, but, like, yeah.
But also, like, winning the game is kind of important sometimes, because if you give them one more turn with Nami or Shelly or whatever,
like, it depends though. Like, as long as you have your attack turn, it's like you're fine. They can't over the top you.
Yeah.
You can gimmick people with, like, playing, like, Tryndamere and then Tryndamere spell. Nami can't deal with that. Atrocity on Tryndamere.
Oh, they were on Ruination, so it was like, do you play around, like, it's the question, right? Like, do you play around, do you feel the rush now to get around Ruination? Do you play around, like,
Even that's not that bad, right?
Fading.
They Ruination you still hit them in the dome for 11.
We already had a Tryndamere die.
Okay, well, just don't have
we
that.
We already had a Tryndamere die and we leveled a Trundle. This is like turn 14. We're like deep. Like,
Yeah,
why are we here though?
I'm just.
We should just shouldn't be here.
This matchup gets grindy sometimes.
The matchup gets grindy. Like,
Nami likes to make things grindy.
See, that's the thing is like, great. These are
Yeah.
skill intensive matchups.
Yeah.
These are the matchups where you want She Who Wonders to just ruin all engines in your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, right? Because I think like these are matchups that are going to be really important in like playoffs and like a couple open rounds. But I think like most people are probably not going to bring Nami.
Most people are probably not going to bring FTR.
Right. So like,
I think more Nami than FTR.
Yeah, I think people will bring Nami because they know it's good and like they've done really crazy things with it, but they're not going to be like really good pilots. Yeah. And you're just going to see Nami. You're going to like not recognize the name. You're going to quickly search them up on Master Tracker or something. You're going to be like, "What's your rank? How many games do you have on Nami?" It's like, "Oh, you have 15 games on Nami. Great, we're leaving it up." Or you go and you're like, "Oh, like 150 games, like 60-something% win rate. Great, banning it." Like I feel like every game I'm gonna be like how good are they at this deck actually? And if they're not good, I'm not respecting it.
I mean, I feel like that's a real strat. One of my teammates I mentioned earlier, Bitter, in the Ari Kennen season, that's what he did. He said, if I recognize your name, I'm banning your Ari Kennen. If I don't recognize your name, I'm skill diffing that matchup. And I'm pretty sure he brought Lee. And he, like, beat Shurima Ari Kennen with Lee. Like, sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's fine. I think that's a very real way to go about it.
I'm still salty about that seasonal because I encountered one Ari Kennen player with my counter Ari Kennen lineup.
Don't bring a counter lineup. Don't ever bring a counter lineup.
Don't bring a counter lineup to open rounds. Bring counter lineup to top
aggro.
32.
It was just triple aggro. Pantheon was good that season too.
I
figured I was hitting one or the other. I thought it was fine.
That sounds good.
I just got
real
unlucky.
Truth was double aggro Ari Kennen. Just say they banned that. The Ari Kennen.
That was my lineup. It was Spiders, Ari Kennen, Go Hard, and
that's a good lineup.
Pirates, maybe. It was a good lineup. Mo was on it too. We played the same fucking lineup. We just neither one of us hit the Ari Kennen players.
My team played lineups like that a shit ton in Aegis. We played Yaya though because like I honestly think Yaya was the same as like every other aggro deck in Ari Kennen if you played it right besides Spiders.
Yeah, why did people say that wasn't favored for Yaya?
I thought that was fine for
Yaya.
Yaya.
Okay,
it's just for deny?
People said it was like really bad for Yaya, but I had no trouble in that matchup.
Like when you play against good Ari Kennen players, it's not like easy because what happens is
nothing was easy against a good Ari Kennen player.
Yeah, like what happens is like Lulu Chompers is like cool and all, but they aren't like donating stuff to you. Like they're not gonna play into that unless they have recalls and shit, right? And like they have the Kennens to like remove a bunch of your shit, which is really annoying. They have the Go Hards to ping you off. So like versus SI and like you have to like super hard develop into them and force them to tap mana if you ever want a Yaya. And like you often get into positions, right, where they just let you go 6 wide and then they just like don't care anymore and they stall you out in like different ways because they just like shit out 1,000,000 units with wayfinders and just like keep jumping down. Like when Kennen eventually flips, it's miserable. Mm-hmm. Like the way you had to play that matchup, which is really unintuitive, is you had to hard look for Yordle captains and you had to abuse the fuck out of 1/3 chompers and like 2/2s. And then if you did that, then you could force them to play into you and then you get to do things like sometimes you get to Yaya off. You get the Yaya off. Or you get them to like spend recalls in awkward spots and you can like throw burn at their units to like stop them from doing that. And you had to play in this way, which was really awkward for you. And if the Ari Kennen player like did the Ari thing, they would probably race you because they can grind you really hard and stall you really hard. If they ever hit a pack, you die. The Shurima version especially was like insane at racing you. And like the Blade Twirlers were hella annoying. Especially because like they would generally block Ari or like block a Lulu. Pretty well, like on the Lulu turn. It just wasn't an easy matchup. It was definitely playable. It was definitely skill diffable, but like the deck was too good, and your deck wasn't oppressive versus them like Spiders was because you were so efficient and you had a good keyword versus them.
It's true. That's true. All right, guys, we are coming up on an hour, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty beat. It's been a long week for me, so I think we're gonna wrap it up here. You guys have any last words you want to let everybody know before we do? Any tips or tricks for the ladder? Any recommendations on what to play with your final climbs? People
Get your 7-2 seeding while you can. It's like a massive difference. I mean, the statistics are just huge.
What would you guys be playing on ladder this week to get your 7-2 seed?
Papercraft. Probably Luna.
Poppy.
You pick a good deck you feel good on. For me,
Yeah.
it's a Felios PNZ. For Phansora, it's a papercraft deck. For Prodigy, it's Demacia or Scion or Talia Ziggs, whatever, or Shurima, whatever's positioned
Just
better.
play your best deck. The meta's wide open. The best T of Nami
There's
players
too
are
many
now.
decks out there to try to hard counter it unless
Yep.
you have like a really good read on a specific day, and then that read's going to be
Yeah.
bad for tomorrow.
Play your local like time windows. So if like everyone in your time slot is playing Thralls, like don't play a deck that's weak into Thralls. Like, but don't like try to like go out there like super mind gaming. Just be like play a couple games. If you run into the same stuff, pivot. But yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed this Squadcast. Oh, one last thing. There is a charity stream event going on next week. For those of you that don't know, I'm participating in it myself. Lots and lots of other people are participating in it. You can check that out and feel free to tune into my stream, to Amwe's stream, to Nips' stream, to Baki's stream. There's a ton of people participating. You can find details for that on my Twitter or DM me on Discord or whatever if you want to learn more. We are supporting women's reproductive rights, and the exact charity is Women's Reproductive Rights Assistance Project, and it's a really good cause. It's a really important cause. So I hope that some of you guys will tune in and lend whatever support you can. But yeah, that is going to be it for us this week. Thank you guys so much. We'll catch you next time.